Hello, everybody. I'm Ryan Willis.
Senor Matt Willis.
This is Big Mouth Willie Bass Podcast coming at you.
We're back on the airwaves. Episode 23, right?
I think maybe.
We're getting up there. We're still going.
Yeah, sorry for not recording last week, folks. Matt was busy with midterms, and we would set aside time to do it, and then something weird would happen, or we'd just be like, too tired.
We're back on the grind now, though, starting this week and next week.
Well, we're recording
the week after.
We're recording pretty late, Matt. It's 11 o'clock your time.
Yeah, I'm a little tired right now, but you know what? I'm doing it for you people that are watching.
Are you going to stay awake during this episode?
Yeah, because I was going to say without you people, the viewers, I would be in bed right now.
And you'd be better off for it. Folks, as always, please subscribe to our channel. Give us a thumbs up and drop us a comment. We would love to hear from you. And of course, follow us on social media. Twitter at Big Mouth Willie. That's at Big Mouth Willie. And our Instagram page at Big Mouth Willie Bass. Matt, I know I've been saying for the last couple episodes that we're going to do a social media giveaway. I have failed in that department. I have failed to deliver on that promise. So yes, we will be doing a social media giveaway very shortly. So make sure you follow us. You will not regret it unless you don't win. Then you might hate us. But we're going to do plenty of them throughout the year, I'm sure. Right, Matt?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, think of it like this, ladies and gentlemen. If you win the contest, you'll be taking our money essentially because me and Ryan are paying for a set gift.
What little money that we have. It ain't much.
Yeah. We got what do you call it? A Patreon going.
Thank you very much. I hope we had a good time. All right, so Matt, what are we talking about this week? Well, we're going to be recording what we actually recorded a couple weeks ago, but it never made it to our channel because of terrible internet connection. And I was not willing to go through that mess and try to edit it. But we are talking about car accidents. So yes, and the reason we decided to do an episode on this topic, Matt, is because just a few short weeks ago, you were involved in a near-death experience while you were driving your vehicle. So let's go ahead and open it up right now, Matt. What happened to you a few weeks ago?
I nearly died, man.
I would have lost my co-host. Oh, and a brother, of course.
We had some crazy weather out here. We had some ice storms and snowstorms. So the weather was pretty bad on this particular
the weather
night.
Out there was frightful.
But on this night, though, we had a really bad ice storm. And I was in this vehicle right here, my truck, which is a lightweight truck. And since the roads were icy, I did one of them. I started spinning. Well, maybe not like that, but more like, this, But,
I picture the scene from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles when John Candy and Steve Martin are driving on the highway, and John Candy veers off onto the wrong side of the road.
It's like,
yeah, then he goes off the entrance ramp. He's exiting the entrance ramp, so he's going the wrong way, and he realizes it, and he slams on the brakes, and it's like,
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I pictured, Matt, when you told me about this experience that you have.
What? I wasn't screaming like that, but that is pretty accurate with the spinning, though. I probably spun like 6 times.
Holy shit, brother.
Holy shit, brother. I'm going to die, brother. I can't see. Oh, yeah. But
that wasn't even the scariest part, Matt.
Well, yeah, because I spun and there was 2 or 3 cars, because it's a 4-lane road, and there was 3 other cars next to me, and thankfully I missed all those three cars. And like cars behind me started spinning out because of me, unfortunately. But but
Oh,
I
they
ended
were
up
fine.
at first I thought I was going to end up like in someone's living room, but because there was houses on the side of the road, but I ended up on the wrong side of the road. And thankfully, there was no cars coming the other way. Otherwise, a semi truck or somebody would have ran right into me. So, yeah, that was a grand old time on the roads. And
Yeah, but
I
Matt,
tried to.
while you were sitting there and while you were on the phone with me, what happened then?
Cars almost they spun out and almost hit me. I remember I was on the phone with you. I was just like, "Holy shit! Holy shit!"
Yeah, you were like yelling. I was like, Matt, hello, hello, what's going on? Like all the here was just a massive explosion in the background or something. And like didn't say anything for like 10 seconds. So I was super apprehensive that you got hit or something. And then finally you're like, oh wow, that was pretty scary.
Oh wow, that was a trip. Well, yeah. Well, the thing was that like those other cars that spun out, they were able to regain traction with their tires and keep moving. But me, on the other hand, I was stuck. This truck cannot go in this ice.
Yeah,
So
plus you thought your alignment was all screwed up too initially, so you didn't even want to take a chance and try driving it.
yeah, it was a nightmare. So anyway, long story short, I had AAA. I tried calling them to get a tow truck driver to get me home. I had to wait there for like 3.5 hours. Excuse me. But I had to wait there for like 3.5 hours. And they finally showed up and they couldn't help me because they were just like, yeah, man, we're both going to end up in a ditch if I try to take your ass home. And I was just like, well, why do I have AAA if you're not going to help me out?
Yeah, they could have, given you a heads up sooner than that instead of just leaving you hanging for 3.5 hours. Then you had to call our dad, and it took him
Yeah.
almost an hour to get to you just because of the conditions.
Well, he had to take a shower before he headed out, and
Get his cup of coffee.
Eat his midnight snack. But
Read
anyway,
the
yeah,
local
our dad.
newspaper.
Yeah, just still around.
But
yeah, our dad was able to save me, and we had to leave the truck, and we were able to get it the following day. My window here, my side window was broken because I guess like a snowplow threw some ice or snow on my mirror, so I had to replace that entire thing. But I was able to get home safely, thankfully, the following day. But yeah, that was a crazy thing. I mean, I'm just thankful that I'm alive and it didn't cost me any money.
No kidding, bro. Plus, there was a little note on your windshield, wasn't there?
Yeah, I was just like, if this vehicle is not moved from this spot in 24 hours, you'll never see it again.
Gee, thank you, Mr. Officer.
Yeah,
Thank you for your compassion and understanding during these insane storms that we're having.
During these trying times. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, I didn't go. I only went back to work one more day, and I pretty much no work in school for like 2 weeks because that's how terrible the weather is out here. So
yeah, Matt, from now on, when the roads are icy at all, even if it's just like a little icy, it's not even that bad for out there. Just please don't go anywhere. Just stay home. Call out sick. Use a sick day. It's not.
Yeah, it was only a 4-hour shift of work that I was coming home from. So it's just like, yeah, I definitely should. That was not worth it.
Yeah, when you told me that, I was like, Matt, what are you thinking? It's not worth it. 4 hours?
What? 4 hours?
Fisher.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Well, it's all part of the experience of living in Arkansas.
Arkansas?
Arkansas? Yeah, honestly, Matt, when you told me that, I was just like, for the first time in a long time, I'm actually happy to live in California. There's a lot of things I hate about this damn state, but at least I don't have to deal with weather like that, at least not where I live.
Yeah, it's a price you pay for that weather.
It's a steep price, that's for sure. Well, Matt, as you know, your oldest brother over here has had a million different incidents occur while I was in a motorized vehicle. And I gotta tell you, if I would have had any clue, any inkling what I was in for my first few years as a licensed driver in the state of California, I would have refused to have gone for my driver's test, my license, for at least a good 5 or 6 years after I turned 16 because it was not worth it. I got to tell you. So the first accident that I was involved in,
plenty of them,
was a few months after I got my driver's license. I was 16 and I was driving home after school. I was a junior in high school and I was stuck in the after school traffic, which was just bumper to bumper.
Oh, it's bad anywhere.
And with my luck, there was nobody behind me, surprisingly. There was like a mile long of cars ahead of me, but I was in the very back of this mess. And I just look in my rearview mirror and I see this old, probably early 1990s or mid 1990s red Toyota pickup truck just coming up the hill, just full speed, hauling ass. And I'm just like, okay, they better start slowing down like 10 seconds ago. And before I'm like, brace for impact! Boom!
Shit!
Plows right into the back of our dad's old 1989 Ford pickup truck, which was my first vehicle. And I didn't hit the car in front of me, thankfully, because I saw it coming. So I already had my foot like through the floor on the brake pedal, essentially. I was braced for impact. So I just kind of moved forward a little bit, but not enough to hit the car in front of me. And I was like, oh, you gotta be shitting me, man. Like,
yeah.
What is going on? And then as I'm like just stressed out and just thinking, okay, like, what am I gonna do? The car right behind him, a little white, I think it was a Mazda. Let's just say it's a Mazda. Slams into the back of him and he comes forward and hits me a second time. So he rear-ended me twice.
Domino effect.
So I'm like, what is going on? So we all pull off to the side of the road. The Mazda was pretty much totaled. The Toyota truck, the back bumper, I think, came off. His front bumper was all screwed up. Meanwhile, my truck was pretty much fine, man. Like the rear bumper was a little off kiltered. It looked like crooked, and there was like a little dent on one side, but that was pretty much it. So the damage was right. It was pretty minimal on my end. So I was thinking, okay, well, thank goodness for that at least. So the kid in the Mazda, and by the way, both of the kids involved in this accident were in my grade. They were all juniors. They were all in my class.
Of course.
Yeah,
of course,
so I knew them fairly well. Matter of fact, the kid in the red Toyota, I considered him a fairly good friend. We weren't close friends, but we were, decent friends. We had a lot of classes together.
That's probably going to be changing.
Yeah, initially I thought that was a good thing. But anyway, the kid that was driving the Mazda had a passenger with him. And that's a no-no. I don't know if it's still in effect as far as the law, but I'm pretty sure, Matt, you can't drive a passenger until you turn 18, is it? Or if it's after you've got your license for a year. I can't remember which one it is. But I'm pretty sure it wasn't until you were 18 that you could actually have a passenger in your vehicle. So he had a passenger and he immediately was like, hey guys, like, can we just all agree that you didn't see anybody with me? Like there was no passenger. And we were just like, oh yeah, sure. And looking back, that was a mistake. Just throwing his ass under the bus, man. Here comes the bus.
Put him behind bars.
Yeah. So there was that. We were exchanging information. A sheriff pulls up and asks if we want to do a police report. And my dumbass says, oh, no, that's not necessary. We don't need a police report.
That's a learning lesson, Ryan.
Yeah.
Always get that police report.
That was a huge mistake.
Especially when it's not your fault.
Yeah, exactly. So, long story short, the kid in the red Toyota's dad shows up. And he asked me, and he's just like, "So are we cool here? Like, I mean, there's not much damage to your truck, so like we're okay. Like, you're not gonna come after us for anything." And I was like, "No, no, we're cool. Like, I'm pretty sure my dad's not gonna care about this. It's not even that bad. You
You're
guys
still
have
under peer pressure.
yeah, you guys have a lot more to worry about than I do." Wrong, very wrong. So Matt, this was my first experience dealing with car insurance companies. And my hatred for them all started because of this whole experience. So
at a very young age.
I'm having to deal with 3 different car insurance companies. My own, the kid in the red Toyota, and the kid in the Mazda. And somehow or another, well, first off, our father decided, oh, I want a new back bumper. I don't want this bumper. I want it replaced. That was a mistake right there, because then we were just kind of asking for trouble at that point. Because then the insurance companies for the other guys were like, oh, okay, well, we're going to take you down, man. We're going to turn this around and blame it on your kid. And that's exactly what happened. Somewhere along the lines, I must have said something wrong, or I must have acted guilty. Maybe I stuttered at one point or another. But somehow, even though I was just sitting in traffic, minding my own business, I got blamed for 50%, half of the accident. And the kid in the Mazda took the other half of the responsibility. Meanwhile, the kid that caused the whole damn accident got off clean. He was fine. Matter of fact, his truck got repaired and got a new paint job, I remember. Never looked better. So somehow, half of this accident got pinned on me. And I will never, for the life of me, understand it. But somewhere along the line, I must have goofed or said the wrong thing, or just may have came off as guilty when I was explaining to these insurance companies what happened. Because I do remember these people were just really going after me. It was like the 3rd degree. Like, oh, are you sure? Like, are you sure you were just sitting there? Like, you didn't slam on your brakes or anything?
While you're just sitting there.
Yeah. Could not believe it. Could not believe it. So, I mean, that alone was enough for me to be like, wow, driving really effing sucks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you did make a couple mistakes, like without getting like the incident report and like, telling that asshole father, like, oh yeah, we're cool. And I mean, I understand that you were young, and who knows, I may have done the same thing too, but
I was a dumb kid. I didn't know this was my first accident. I didn't really know the protocols, what you were supposed to do or anything like that. I mean, this was all new to me. So yeah, I definitely goofed up. I still just cannot get over how somebody could just be sitting in traffic, get rear-ended twice, and somehow takes half the blame. I will never understand that, but that's what happened. So that was my first accident that I was involved in. Now, Matt, the second accident that I was involved in happened in our parents' driveway. Do you remember?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I do remember. This is a take 2, but yeah.
Yeah, I hope you remember. So I was driving our grandma Willis's old red Thunderbird, which she of course gave to our dad, who drove it for a few years before he gave it away to like Father Joe or something. I forget what happened to that car. But anyway, for whatever reason, I was going to drive this car. I don't even remember where I was going, but I was driving it and I was going to turn it around in our driveway. And our driveway wasn't overly spacious, I would say, Matt. It was kind of narrow. So
it was pretty tight.
I wanted to turn it around so I could just pull straight out. Well, while I was in the process of turning the car around, I somehow pulled the Thunderbird too close to the back bumper of that 1989 Ford pickup, and I got the hood, the front bumper of that car, stuck underneath the pickup. And when I realized, I was like, oh shit, and I threw it in reverse, and it ripped off the headlight for the Thunderbird, and it propped up the bumper to the Ford. It was just like the previous accident where it was like off kiltered again. And I was just like, oh, you effing idiot. What are you doing? But
Yeah.
instead of confessing, I was like, oh, maybe mom and dad won't notice.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, right.
The next morning, immediately, our dad and mom come up to me and are like, Ryan, what the F happened? Why is the Thunderbird missing a headlight? And why is the bumper to the Ford all jacked up? And I was just like, I don't know. I don't know what you're
Oh
talking
my
about.
God. You're digging your grave, man.
I just made things a billion times worse. Look, I know adolescent brains are not fully developed, but my God, Fisher.
Yeah,
I still cannot get over how dumb I was in my teenage years, man.
yeah, that was probably the worst one. Well, maybe. Well, that was pretty bad, but
Stay tuned. Let's have the viewers decide, man. We should have a poll at the end of this. Which accident was the worst that Ryan was involved in?
But that sucks though. It's just like, you're pulling in, you're like, oh great, I'm home, time to relax. And I guess you just kept driving.
Well, I think I was going somewhere. I don't know where, but I'm pretty sure I was just trying to back the car up so I could
you were leaving.
drive straight out. That way I didn't have to back all the way out our long driveway.
Gotcha. I thought you were parking at first. Okay. That makes sense.
Honestly, Matt, our parents never really, from what I remember, truly disciplined us or grounded us per se. But that was like the one time where they were legitimately pissed at me and they were like, yeah, you're not doing anything for a long time. Like, you're not going to drive anywhere. You're going to take the bus to school, or we're going to drive you to school. You're not going anywhere. You're not hanging out with friends. Like, you were not doing anything for a long time. And they stood by that for a good month or two. I did not do anything after that. So that was probably the most pissed our parents ever were at me.
Oh, well, I mean, to be fair, I think you kind of had it coming.
Oh, I deserved it. I mean, honestly, they should have gone to the DMV and been like, you gave this asshole a driver's license? Can you rip it up in front of him right now and never give him another one?
Well, I guess silver lining, at least it happened at home and not out on the road. But still, that's an unfortunate sequence of events.
Well, that was not my last accident in a driveway, but Matt, I don't want to just keep talking without you chiming in. So go ahead and tell the folks what happened with your other accidents that you've been a part of.
Yeah. Okay. So another notable one for me, which was also out here in Arkansas, because apparently all my stuff happens out here and, never out there. But
yeah, go figure.
So there was a night where I was driving home from work and I was only about 2 minutes away from home. Only 2 minutes away from home. And I was probably going about 50 miles per hour. Of course. But
are you sure?
Yeah, I was. But yeah, I was going 50 and about 2 minutes away from home. It was like 10:30 at night, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a deer runs across right in front of my truck. And guess what? I could not get out of the way. I could not swerve on the other side because on each side of the road, it was a big ditch. So I had to make the decision, either hit this deer or fly out the ditch and die. So I was just like, okay, well, so I drove right into that big old deer. I think it was a buck actually, because it had the antlers. But yeah, that was
poor creature.
It was direct contact, man. It was like boom.
My only hope is that deer or buck was just so done with life, where he or she was just like, you know what? I've lived a full life. That's so sad, though. When you told me that, I was so depressed. I was like, man, I hate that. And
Yeah.
wasn't your front bumper just completely destroyed after that?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And ironically, at the same exact time, our grandparents were visiting out here from California. Of course, they were visiting here with us, and they, I guess, like while I was asleep that morning, they got up early and they helped at least piece together the bumper so it at least looked a little bit better. It was more like a redneck job just to like tape it up real quick.
They're probably, oh my gosh, what did Matt do last night? Who did he
But I mean,
kill?
that was, that was something that I couldn't control, though. It's not like I ran into
Yeah.
the back of a bumper of someone else. But anyway, yeah, that whole thing definitely sucked, and I ended up, I don't know, maybe some people would have took a different approach, but I ended up just paying the bill to fix my truck without getting the insurance involved because I was thinking they were either going to raise my rates or start questioning me or something. So I was just like, I'm just going to pay for it myself. So maybe I just need better insurance, but
Well, yeah, it depends on the type of plan you have, but I mean, I don't really blame you. I mean, anytime you have to deal with the insurance, I think I'd rather put myself in the eye, man. Oh,
so yeah, that ended up costing me like a couple grand. So it was just like, God, man, that was a really unfortunate sequence that happened there. But
yeah.
that's the thing that I remember now though is that whenever I'm driving at home at night in these back roads, I always have my brights on because I did not have my brights on. If I had my brights on, I may have seen it. So
Yeah.
for any of you out there, who had to deal with deer, turn those brights on.
But make sure you, yeah, I was gonna say, make sure you turn them off though. When the car's coming the other way. Don't be a dick.
Yeah, it pays to be a dick.
On that, speaking of having to pay for an accident, so
Oh no.
I'm not done with my driveways here. So our Ogle grandparents, their old house in Vista, I was involved in two incidents in their
What are the
driveway.
odds?
So I'm pretty sure I can't remember which one happened first, but I'm pretty sure the time I was driving home in the old Chevy Suburban, which is over there in
Yeah.
Arkansas now. I
Yeah,
love
lots
that.
of memories. Lots of memories with that thing with you.
Yes, absolutely. I hope that thing never dies. I was driving home from work one night. So our grandparents, Matt, they lived pretty close to where I used to work, my Papa John's job. They were like 10 minutes away, if even that. Plus, they were pretty close to Palomar College when I was going to school there. So a lot of times, if I was working late and I had class the next morning, I would just go over to my grandparents and stay the night.
Makes
Makes
sense.
sense, right? Save on gas. So one night I was driving over there and I was tired and getting close to their driveway. And you may remember there was a pillar,
Yeah.
a big wall pillar on each side of the driveway, the entrance to the driveway. So I was coming down the road and I'm about to turn, and I did not take this turn wide enough at all. And on top of that, I was one handing it. I had like one hand like this on my head and the other hand on the steering wheel.
Yeah.
Just
You're too cool for school.
totally careless. And I decide to whip this big old tank into their driveway, and I end up just slamming into that side pillar with the side of my truck, the SUV, and taking it out essentially. Meanwhile, putting a big old scratch on the side of the Suburban. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Did
Well,
I really just do this?
that's the worst too because like it's one thing if you did it like, at our own house, but this is our grandparents. So
Yeah, so I pull in, assess the damage, and I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. It was pretty bad. Plus, the Suburban was messed up, so I was also worried about that part and what our dad would say. So I go inside, and of course, our grandparents were still awake. And I was like, Grandma, I am so sorry, but I drove into the wall. out front there, the entrance to the driveway. She's like, "What?" She's like super confused, and she's like, "Oh, I'm sure it's not that bad, right? Let's go take a look." So she takes the flashlight out there, and she sees it, and she's just like, "Oh my god!" And I'm like,
Pull
"I
your
told
hair out.
ya." Yeah, super mad. So yeah, that was pretty bad. That was pretty bad.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds like
Our
it. God.
grandma made me pay for the damage. It took me probably about a full year, honestly, to save up enough money. Because back then I was making $8 an hour, and literally some of my
Oh,
checks were under $100, and I was paid bi-weekly. So it took
yeah,
me literally a full year just to save up a couple $100 to get this wall fixed. Because our close family friend, Ruben, Matt, was the one that
yeah.
fixed the wall. So I got a discount because he only did it for like a couple $100. But even just a couple $100 was a tunnel of money for me.
God, that sounds so depressing.
Yeah.
uh,
And then our dad
but
decided to put a big long piece of blue tape over the scratch for some reason. Why, I will never
yeah,
quite understand that.
it's still there.
It's still on there to this day.
I see it right now.
So there was that incident. And the second one, Matt, that happened in that same driveway at our Ogle grandparents. Our dad, for whatever reason, trusted me to drive his relatively brand new truck, the truck that you are sitting in right now as we speak.
It's right here. It's still alive.
2007 Toyota
Yes.
Tacoma.
Yep, you're right.
So he probably had only had this truck for maybe a year or two, Matt. And for whatever, I don't remember why he let me drive it. Maybe the Suburban was in the shop or something, but he let me drive that truck to school and work that day. So I had class earlier, and then I went over to the Ogles to visit before I think I had work. And the same time I was walking to my truck in the driveway, this big old utility vehicle pulls in, and it gets super close to me and it parks right beside me. And I'm thinking, okay, do I even have enough room to back out? Like he's literally this close to me, and I have this much room on the other side to back out. And remember, there's a pillar, there's a wall on both sides of the entrance here to this driveway.
That was just fixed.
So I was contemplating, I was like, the smart thing would be to ask these people, or at the very least, ask my grandma to tell these people to please back out of the driveway and let me out so I can safely and comfortably leave. And I don't
Yeah.
even know who these people were or what they were there for. I think they were construction workers or yard workers or something. I don't know. They were going to work on the house or something. It was just totally random. It was a fluke that they showed up at the same exact time I was going to leave. But teenage Ryan was just like, I can do this. I got this.
I got this.
I throw it in reverse, Matt, and I was so paranoid about hitting these guys and scratching their vehicle that I got too close to the other side where the wall was, and I scratched the side of the truck against that damn wall.
Oh my god.
And that scratch is still there to your left as we speak.
Right over here. You know, with that one though, like I don't blame you that much about that one because I feel like that was more of like a freak coincidence. And it also as well, like I don't know why they only left like this much room between, vehicles, especially with the big truck we're talking about. Like,
well, it took up more than half the driveway.
Yeah, that's just a terrible coincidence. I mean, if I was in your shoes, I probably would have done the same thing. Be like, well, I gotta get to work, and if I, pander around too long, I'll be late, But
well, now that I'm thinking about it, Matt, I'm pretty sure I was running late, and I think that was part of the reason why I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go for it. I'm pretty sure I was leaving later than I normally do, so I think that was a big part of it. But even still, it's like, who cares if I'm a couple minutes late? Fine. If they would have fired me back in that at that time, it would have been a blessing, honestly, because I hated that job. So
no
I mean, I appreciate you trying to stick up for me and try to, justify the whole thing, but I was still an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for anyone that's watching this, what I guess the correct thing is to do is, maybe try to find that driver and be like, hey pal, I'm trying to go and you're blocking my way. Like,
Can you please get the hell out of here?
Go anywhere but here. Like, go across the other street. Like, go down the dirt road. Or
is it a street? But Matt, our dad did not talk to me for a full week after that. That's how pissed he was.
Yeah, well, this was his truck before he became mine. So
the thing is, though, I'm trying to defend myself here. Years later, it was probably like, I don't know, 7, 8 years after that accident, I tried getting that scratch removed and just, getting that whole door replaced, essentially. I think that's probably what they would have had to have done. I tried to get the whole thing replaced so it looked like new because I was making decent money at the time and I could afford it. I was actually going to do it, I think, for either his birthday or for Father's Day. I was going to get that scratch removed for him. But my mom let the cat out of the bag before I could take it down to the dealership or the detail place. And my dad was like, Ryan, don't take it in. It's fine. I'm used to it. I'm over it by now. Like, don't waste your money. I was like, gosh, dang it. I could have gotten that scratch fixed, Matt.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I'm kind of used to it too, but and plus we all can always remember that day. But
oh yes, just what I want to do.
We gotta learn from mistakes.
Matt, tell everybody what happened to you in the parking lot at your job.
Yeah. So even before the whole deer incident, I was at work one day and they called me on the radio to go up to the front of the store, and I saw, one of the managers and one of the workers that works outside who knows who I am, of course, and knows what I drive. And they were both staying at the front entrance. They were like, hey, Matt, John here, John here says that someone, rammed their car into your truck and your truck looks terrible. And I was just like, what the hell, man? So I was just like, what the hell? And I power walked out to my truck, and someone committed a hit and run on me while I was inside at work. So there was a cop there, and they were all like accessing
it was like a crime scene.
Yeah, it was like they got the yellow tape around my truck.
Everybody standing around looking at it like, oh man, I'd hate to be this person. Hate to own this vehicle.
Every single person that's driving by is like looking and, oh, look at that truck.
That poor bastard.
But yeah, my entire front bumper was just like dangling like down like that. And I was just like, oh,
looked like the Griswold's family truckster.
Yeah, exactly. And that was honestly my first incident of any kind with any vehicle. And it happened when I wasn't even driving. So who would have thought that? But
and then the asshole just drives off. Doesn't doesn't go in the store and be like, hey, I hit somebody's truck.
No, just drove off. But
no integrity.
But thankfully though, it was all paid for by that asshole and his insurance company. Thankfully he did have insurance as well. But
because they were able to see him on surveillance, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say that they got the security cameras out there, and thankfully they were able to find them. And although the only issue was that it took like 4 months for my truck to be repaired, so I basically drove around with no front bumper that entire time. So total redneck vehicle, man.
Oh man.
So.
Well, I mean, honestly, man, that sounds about right. Because between dealing with insurance companies and then dealing with body shops, it takes forever to get anything accomplished, from my experience.
It does.
That timeline sounds pretty accurate, honestly.
So yeah, that was my first incident of any kind. But there was also a second time where someone also hit me, which was.
That's right.
Yeah, it was it was one of the sides of my truck. I forget which side, but someone did hit my truck, but it was a lot less damage, but it was still enough where it was just like, you scratched my car. That was for Japan,
Where?
but yeah.
Right here.
And I remember like I tried like, telling people like, hey, like somebody hit my truck again. Like, can you find out through the footage? And for one reason or another, they weren't able to find it. So I was just like, so yeah, I had to drive with that big old scratch. I didn't get that repaired till the same time where I got after I hit the deer. So that went a long ass time with that dent, but
Oh man, you just have had the worst luck in that truck out there, Matt. You never had any problems out here in
I
SoCal,
know.
but out in Arkansas, my goodness, man.
My God, Fisher. Yeah, I don't get it. Like it's weird, but yeah, it's so is life.
Yeah. Well, Matt, just to wrap things up from my end, I mean, I've been involved in a few other accidents. I'm not going to get too deep or too into detail about the other ones. There was another accident I was involved in. It was like literally a week before I was about to start college. It was right after I graduated high school, a couple months after the fact. I was with my now wife, then girlfriend, in the Suburban. And I rear-ended an old couple right over here by the community center, right out front.
Yeah.
I had to slam my brakes because they slammed on their brakes, and the SUV does not have anti-lock brakes thanks to our Jack Russell Terrier, Jack, that we used to have. He chewed right through the wires. I couldn't stop in time. Went right into the back of this old couple. I think they were driving like a Toyota RAV4 or something like that. It didn't do a ton of damage. Really didn't do much damage at all to the SUV. Just propped up the hood a little bit. So that looks a little off now, still to this day. But that was pretty much the only damage that happened to my vehicle. And their car, their trunk got, smushed in a little bit, but nothing too serious. And of course, a week after that accident, my insurance company called and it's like, oh yeah, the two old people that you hit, they're complaining that they're having back trouble. Their back is, so we're gonna jack your rates up even more, teenager.
They already had arthritis. Come on.
Yeah, so I love that. That was honestly a terrible experience because that was when I did not have a job yet, and our parents were just relentless about me finding a job. And this was in 2008 when the recession hit. So finding a job was not very easy. So that was an absolute nightmare, that whole ordeal. But the last accident I'm going to talk about, Matt, was the one that happened on the 5 freeway out here in Southern California. I was driving to work one morning. I absolutely despise that freeway. It doesn't matter what time of the day or night. That freeway is always busy going north and south. It just never makes a difference what time of the day. Driving to work, stop and go traffic, and I see in my mirror this old lady just swerving from lane to lane like a pinball. Ping, 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 ping. And I was like, what is going on? And sure enough, this lady bounces off the side of my car, the driver's side. And I'm just like, oh my God. Out of the millions of cars on this freeway, this lady hits me. So somehow we were able to merge off to the side, get off the freeway, and I'm waiting for her to get out of her car, and she's just sitting there with the door open. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm gonna have to be the bigger person and go up to her. So I walk up to her. I'm trying my best not to strangle her, and I'm like, hey, how you doing? And she's just like this, trying to pull the keys out of her ignition. And I'm just staring at her for like a minute straight. And then finally I'm like, excuse me, ma'am. You want me to try to get those keys out of the ignition for you? And she just sharply looks at me, darts her head. Have you ever driven a Honda before? And I was like totally startled and taken back by this comment. It literally took me a few seconds and I'm like, no, I don't think that really matters though. So finally she's like reluctantly, okay, fine. She gets out of her seat. I sit down and I start trying to yank at the keys and I'm like, oh shit, maybe she was on to something. And then I look at the shifter. The damn thing was in drive and the car was off. So that was why she couldn't get the keys out. So I was like, ma'am, you turned your car off with it in drive. That's why you can't get your keys out. And she's like, oh, okay.
Hey, so ma'am, it was the retirement home.
Yeah. Seriously. It literally took this lady almost an hour to find her paperwork, her insurance information, her registration. She had paperwork just scattered all over this car in the glove box, in the center divide, on the floors, the seats. Just an absolute disaster zone in this lady's car. I think even at
That's
one
all
point,
ridiculous.
I was digging through some of this crap looking for her stuff. That's how bad it was. CHP pulls up and asks if I want him to write out a police report. I'm like, yes, I learned from my very first accident. I always will get that incident report.
Absolutely.
And then the lady me was like, is that really necessary? I just looked at her. I'm like, yes. You're not going to screw me over, old lady.
Yeah.
So the officer was like, all right, no problem. However, I just got a report. I just got a call over the radio of a drunk driver in the area. So I'm going to go find this person. And then when I'm done with that, I'll come back and write out that report. I was like, that's fine. I mean, I'm probably not going to go to work at this point anyway. It's taking too long. Literally 5 minutes later, Matt, this CHP officer pulls back around. I'm like, damn, did he really find the drunk driver that quick? No, there's no way. He gets out of the vehicle, walks up to us, and he's just like, ma'am, you were the reported drunk driver.
Go figure, right?
And she's just like, oh, for heaven's sake, are you kidding? And I was like, okay, well, a good citizen must have seen this lady swerving all over the 5 freeway and saw her hit me, and they reported her as a drunk driver. Thank the Lord.
Well, she's a threat. She's a threat.
Oh, yeah, it could have been much worse, honestly. So anyway, another CHP officer showed up a few minutes later, and they were questioning her. And it turns out she was on a couple different medications, and that's why she was so loopy. I could tell from the get-go, obviously, when she was trying to yank her keys out of the ignition, that there was something off about her. So she was in no condition to drive. They did not allow her to get back in her vehicle. They had to have somebody come pick her up. I told them everything that happened. They believed me, of course, so I got that all squared away. I did not get blamed for that accident, so it ended up being a funny and a good story, I guess, in the end. But that was definitely pretty frustrating to deal with initially.
Well, yeah, at the time, it must have been super frustrating.
Yeah.
Well, any accident you're involved with is always super frustrating. Let's get that clear.
Oh yeah. It's stressful. It's kind of scary too when it first happens. Like it shakes you up a bit, Matt. I mean, honestly, it does. And then like a year to the date after that, an old man in an SUV backed his Suburban right into the side of my car when I was at a stop sign because he was parked to the right there and he didn't see me. I'll tell you. So I've had my fair share of accidents. I think that's every one that I've been involved in that I can think of.
Yeah, well, a lot of them were when you were younger, though. Like there was that time frame from like when you were a junior in high school to like your first year in college, where there was probably like how many of them? Like more than half of the stories you just told were all in that time.
Well, yeah, and on top of that, I broke down literally, I think 5 times in that Ford pickup, and I broke down once in the Suburban too. So I just had the absolute worst luck with driving a vehicle for the first, like, I don't know, 2-3 years of me having my license. I mean,
you wish you were like Cactus bodybuilder Juan Ruiz and not drive.
I'm glad you mentioned it. I'm kind of disappointed that we didn't bring that up with them last episode, Matt. Our good buddy Juan Ruiz, the Cactus bodybuilder. If you did not watch that episode, go back and watch it, by the way. He still to this day does not have his driver's license, but I gotta tell you, he's the smartest man out of us because he doesn't have to deal with any car insurance companies. He doesn't pay registration. Doesn't have to pay for his insurance. I mean, he's a smart man, honestly. He gets chauffeured around wherever he wants to go. That's the way to do it, man.
Oh, absolutely. We salute that man. But but anyway, but yeah, it's hopefully for everyone at home, they can take the lessons from us and try to avoid those mistakes. Although it was mostly you with the mistakes, unfortunately, with this episode. But because my incidents were more just like out of nowhere or just like a deer or someone ramming into me when I'm not even in my vehicle. Where you, on the other hand, a lot of them are just like, oh, whoops.
Yep. Just completely careless, lackadaisical, just, oh, nothing's going to happen to me. I'm unstoppable. I'm on top of the world. Yeah. I'm on top of the world. Yeah. Oh, shit.
Well, hey, you've been good. You've been good for several years now.
Well,
so
yeah,
knock on wood.
I think I finally learned. But some of these accidents are just unavoidable. I mean, you can't avoid all the dumb people in this world. So
Oh, absolutely.
this is why I am not going to allow my daughter to drive probably until she's my age. I will gladly drive her to wherever she needs to go because I know how scary and frustrating driving.
I thought you were gonna say she's gonna take the bus.
Maybe. We'll see. Taking the bus is lame though. I hated taking the bus.
Oh, absolutely.
I had a lot of bad experiences taking the school bus growing up. That's for another episode. Man, I think it's time to get out of here because I think you're about to fall asleep.
Yeah, I like halfway through the episode, I started to be like, "Oh man."
Should have made some coffee, man.
But it was fun though. It's fun. It's fun reminiscing on these terrible experiences.
It's so fun to reminisce on these just awful experiences. Hey, my blood boil.
It's for the views. It's for the loyal subscribers out there.
Yeah, I hope so. We'll see how this episode does. Matt, next week we are hopefully going to be joined by a good buddy of ours, Andrew Fander, who is a huge Padres fan. Baseball season's right around the corner, so we're going to be talking some Padres baseball next week. Hopefully, that's the plan anyway. So you will not want to miss that. Folks, thank you so much as always for tuning in. Again, subscribe, hit that like button, and comment below your experiences with car incidents or accidents. Have you been involved in a car accident before? Whether it was your fault or not, we would love to hear from you. Make us feel better about ourselves.
Absolutely.
Until next time, I'm Ron Willis.
And I'm Matt West.
Ta-ta!